scoring week in the history of fantasy football. So I'm sure the same will uphold again this week. We'll have all fantastic profit margins for ourselves. I'm Chris Spags, joined by my good pal, my Sunday morning buddy, the Chubster, Josh Engelman. How you doing, Josh?
I am pretty good. I cannot complain. Went and got a massage yesterday. I'm feeling tip-top magoo today.
So I don't want to make the happy ending joke right away.
Oh, no.
It's early in the morning for that. But you know what, Josh? One place where there is always a happy ending, if you are a DFS player, is fantasydraft.com. And that's because that is the official home of Rake Free Daily Fantasy. And listen, playing Rake is a real pill for you guys out there who are playing DFS on all the other sites. And really what you want to be is a site like fantasydraft.com, in which all of the contest fees are going directly to the winners. So go to fantasydraft.com right now and use the promo code AWESEMO. Check out the Hooters main event. That is the biggest rake-free daily fantasy contest you will find industry-wide. And then fantasydraft.com every week. They have a lot of great contests that are similar. Use that promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, for your free 7-day trial in the world of rake-free daily fantasy. Josh, you've played a lot of DFS in your life. You've won some tournaments. You've been quite a few across a bunch of sports. How has the world of rake affected you in your DFS career?
It's been awful. Every single I would hate to know how much more money I would have if there was no rake, and I know most people would feel the same way. It's essentially the same, but it's like a staggering amount of thousands of dollars. That shit adds up. I don't want to pay it. It sucks.
Yeah, on fantasydraft.com, they keep track of the money you're saving as well. So look, just another way to keep track if you are a person being diligent about your bankroll watching, which you should be if you're trying to make this a profitable side hobby. So go check out fantasydraft.com right now and use that promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, for your free 7-day trial. And now
I've saved $461.50 just in the NFL season. That's basically all I've played on Fantasy Draft so far. So 6 weeks of NFL.
It's actually, the calculation mechanism is kind of like horrible because I kind of don't want to know that, kind of like when you see calories at like a fast food place where I just like,
yeah. Ooh, 20-piece chicken nugget. That serves 2. Shit.
That's always the best, where it's like, yeah, one serving is 500 calories, but this 20-piece nugget is actually 5 servings.
Yeah. I put that 20-piece McDonald's nugget away pretty regularly. That's my go-to when I don't know what else I'm gonna get.
I'm more of a 12-piece Chick-fil-A guy, but the 20-piece McNugget, hard to argue with.
20-piece McNugget, buffalo sauce, in and out, good to go.
Yeah, so hey, go get some chicken McNuggets and let's play some fantasy draft. But let's also talk about the slate here. We just got an ownership update about 10 minutes ago. So if you are a premium member of awesemo.com, go check that out now. And if you are not, go to awesemo.com/join. Use the promo code live before lock for half off your first month, or find packages as low as $3.95 a week. So that's cheaper than the aforementioned 20-piece McNugget. And again, really going to help you make better lineups. And if you are a casual player, that $3.95 a week package, it's about as simple as it gets. You just get grades, you can make lineups. It's really not meant to be as labor intensive as some of the crunching and the things that you'll see Josh doing in the background throughout this video. But Josh, as always, let's start with the quarterbacks. And it looks like we have one guy who is standing above the field right now, industry-wide. Actually, no, it's a pretty close margin now. The gap has closed a little bit. But Matt Ryan going against Arizona, a very profitable spot overall because of the pace that Arizona plays with. Also, their defense not good. Our boy Andy Dalton didn't quite get there last week, but that was not because he didn't have a shot. He just couldn't punch it into the end zone. Got to the red zone, I think, like 4 times that first quarter and just couldn't get it in. Classic Andy Dalton. But Matt Ryan, a guy who's actually good, surrounded by good weapons, a bunch of guys getting targets, 5 guys in that Falcons lineup getting over 5.2 targets per game. So what are you doing here with Matt Ryan? Are you with the field? Are you above the field? Are you, for some reason, walking away from him?
Way above the field. He's my most exposed quarterback on Fantasy Draft. He is one of the 4 quarterbacks that I have on Yahoo, and I haven't run my crunch for FanDuel yet, but I'm just going to go out on a limb and assume that I have him. Have to. It's the best spot on the board today.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. I think there are some sort of concerns with Matt Ryan, just being not as efficient overall from a real life perspective, but he's throwing 45 passes a game almost. I mean, this team also has shown an ability to fall behind because the defense is also pretty bad. Arizona missing Christian Kirk again today, it looks like, but still have enough weapons to do some damage. So I think it's certainly a spot where I'm comfortable and going to Matt Ryan and trying to figure out the targets. I guess we normally split it up a little bit and talk about the targets separately, but who are the guys who are getting the most with Matt Ryan? Because I know last week you didn't have Julio. That was a blind spot. I'm sure you've corrected that this week.
I did correct that, actually. I wrote it down in my little book. So I have like a notebook where I just write my DFS stuff down, settings and summary for any sort of slate. And my note was, be aware of quarterback exposure with stacks. Lots of... So I had the note that, if I see my quarterback is in 30% of my lineups, go find out who's with him first. So, it was happening again. I had like 14 Austin Hooper lineups, no Ridley, no Julio. So I went and made sure that I slotted in a couple Julio, slotted in a couple Calvin Ridley, brought down the Austin Hooper a little bit, and spread it out.
That is a smart approach, and one that, sometimes you have those gaps, not even an intentional thing, not even a lack of foresight thing. It's just sometimes it happens with projections and how you approach things.
To be fair, like 90% of this is just simply being on the live stream and forgetting that like I should pay attention to literally anything at all.
I'm foolish in the YouTube chat. Doesn't Matt Ryan tend to shit the bed in obvious good spots? That is very much an anecdotal data point and not one that I would support. But going against an Arizona team who's getting strafed by the pass, giving up a 69% completion rate almost, really not the spot you'd expect him to. That said, just because of the high ownership for Arizona, I do have a couple Cardinals defenses just because they're cheap, they're at home, it's not crazy, but 27.3 implied points, like everything is pointing this way, so it's hard to not go that way.
Yeah, look, it's the good thing about Matt Ryan, like, let's just say that he has a really terrible game. He's still going to throw the ball a ton, no matter what. So that's sort of the big piece of this here. It's not like if it's going poorly, he's going to just suddenly like not have the volume. He's going to throw. He throws every week a ton. That is not going to change. He throws a couple picks, so be it. There's only so much you can do to predict that.
Yeah, and again, throwing 44 times a game, so yeah, picks may happen, but still just a 3.2% INT rate on the year, which is really not that bad. It's not great, but it's it's not like egregious by any stretch, and that's with him having some down weeks. And as Josh mentioned, he just keeps getting there time and again. So I think that might be overthinking it a bit. If you want to talk about the price point and stuff, he is a little bit higher price. That could be an issue on some of the sites, but still, I'm there quite a bit. And on this week in particular, like this offense seems like one that's one of the more stackable ones in a variety of ways. And you have to get your Ridley in there, like Josh mentioned. Got to get your Ridley, got to get your Sanu, got to get your Julio and your Hooper. It ends up with a lot of Matt Ryan for me.
I'll say this out loud and it'll immediately be wrong, but like Sanu's the one you can kind of let go if you have to, if you need to start trimming. But you won't feel comfortable with any of it.
See, I think you do get some Sanu in there. He's running 42.2 routes per game, and also the fact that he's running out of the slot, I think, makes him kind of a natural pivot to Hooper in some of those lineups. So that, to me, would be a reason to have Sanu in ones where you don't have Hooper. But it's weird to me. Like the issue I think is that this Atlanta team is kind of like the Rams, where you have a bunch of guys getting a bunch of targets. We've seen really down weeks from Julio the last 2 weeks. Hooper was a very chalky play last week and was still really not great, but he still got the opportunity. I think it's just tough to pick where the production is going to come from, and all these guys are getting looks. So I think Sanu would be in the mix for me regardless.
Yeah, I didn't mean it like I am not having Sanu. I just mean he's the first guy I would lop off if I had to lop off anything. I prefer the other three before him. Like he would be last.
Yeah, and the projections back that out too. So yeah, I'm with you on it. I just think he's running so many routes where everybody running routes against Arizona is going to have a shot, and I think that's sort of the main thing. And that middle of the field area has been really tough for them to defend. So if Hooper doesn't get there, doesn't have that big day, I think Sanu can. But I would have some of all the guys personally.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right, QB also coming behind Matt Ryan is going to be Patrick Mahomes. His ownership taking a jump here. He's a little banged up. He had that ankle injury, a little bit less mobile coming in, but now he's getting Tyreek Hill back, and that's going to fix a lot of issues, even if he is a little bit hurt. No Sammy Watkins, though, so that makes it tough. But is this finally a spot where you can go to Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce with Patrick Mahomes if you could somehow find a way to afford that? Maybe be contrarian. I didn't get a ton of Mahomes, though. I think the price point was tough for me to land on. I just really couldn't force it in. How are you feeling about Mahomes this week?
He is one of my quarterbacks on Yahoo and my second most exposed quarterback on Fantasydraft. Big fan. He's whoa. Are we actually live?
We were. We are on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. So my CPU percentage in OBS is at like 3%. It normally runs in like the 15% range when we're on, so I just assume something's up.
Oh no, you're running at peak efficiency. It looks like on the stream.
Evidently, that's fun. I'm going to Mahomes because he's Pat Mahomes. That's the answer. Like it's like trying to justify playing LeBron James. Bad example because he's aging, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think the spot's good for him. This game should have a lot of scoring. One of the higher combined total, actually, I think the highest combined total on the slate. And yeah, I mean, look, I didn't get there personally. That doesn't mean I don't have a ton of Tyreek Hill. I have a little bit of Kelsey. I'm not going to Pringle. Byron Pringle pops up a lot with the projections that we have at Osmo.com as a value play.
Not if you
I
take
just
him out
don't
of your
see.
player pool entirely.
That's basically what I did. I think I have like maybe one or two lineups with him. I don't want to get Auden Tate again. Like, I like Auden Tate. I thought he was talented, but I had too much of him, and just because he was a value play, just kept coming up in crunches. So yeah, I'm not there, but I think Tyreek is in a really nice spot. Clavicle injury too. You're going to assume he's going to be close to full health. Like, it's not a groin injury like George Kittle's dealing with.
Yeah.
So I really have no issue with Tyreek Hill, and I think he and Mahomes. And if you want to go to Kelsey, I think that could be an interesting higher price stack that a lot of people probably won't be on all three parts.
It should not be a surprise. Hill scares the living shit out of me today. I have a lot on fantasy draft, and I don't really know what to do just because it's really scary to work somebody in that's coming back off of injury. The peak here is that it's a collarbone injury. My only concern really is that he just re-breaks it. Like, it's not like he's going to run differently. If he still has the ball, he's the same person no matter what. So as long as he can withstand getting hit, I see no reason not to have him. But it's super scary. Although I guess it probably shouldn't be. That's the only risk, re-injury.
Yeah, and the clavicle, I mean, you're not really rushing back from that. He's apparently feeling good, so I wouldn't think it's one where you'd be terribly worried about it. But like, I get the concern. I think I've been trying to be a little bit less mindful and worried about the Q tags and all that. Like, if we're saying George Kittle's not going to run the full game, I think that's a viable reason to be like, all right, maybe not. The guys were just coming in, like Chris Godwin's been questionable a couple times, and like I didn't play him because of that reason. I think it could be a trap you kind of put yourself in. And if he's ready to go, they say he's ready to go. Like, you're not going to risk him, I think.
Exactly. We're on the same page here.
Yeah. You said something like he scares you, and I was going to be like, are you a little boy? But that's a dark Sunday morning.
That gentleman scares a lot of people, allegedly.
It's true. He does, of all ages and genders and sizes. But you know what? He's a football player. He's out in the field. We don't want to suspend him in the NFL. Why not? I'll play him in fantasy.
How about Deshaun Watson? I don't care at all then for my fantasy lineups.
No, we don't get morality points in DFS. So if you did, why not? Deshaun Watson on the other side went nuts last week. Will Fuller also going to get a similar opportunity this week because no Kenny Stills out there. One thing that did jump out, got more deep targets last game, got more deep routes, which Kenny Stills has taken off the table. So another nice spot for Fuller. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins, kind of waiting for that bounce back game from him. He's been getting targeted, but not really having the big days he's seen in the past. How are you feeling about Deshaun Watson in a spot here where his price is up, but we just saw the upside that he can have?
Deshaun Watson is one of my 4 quarterbacks on Yahoo and a quarterback that I have on Fantasy Draft. This seems really easy so far. Should I have just sent you my Yahoo quarterbacks? There's only 4 of them, and you've got 3 of them so far.
You're a bit of a chalk donkey basically because I'm just going straight ownership, but these are the clear plays. Like, these are like the ones that I'll have some Case Keenum. I'll tell you one guy. I have some Josh Rosen, which I'm not proud of, but in terms of a stack, it's really cheap. And
you should be less proud of the Case Keenum one.
I think Keenum's actually a good quarterback. Like, we were talking about this, I think, before on the contrary yesterday with Alex, and I was like, I think Case Keenum's going to be like a good XFL quarterback next year. Like,
that's not him being a good quarterback then.
But I mean, like, I think he's okay in the right system. Like, I think he's like Tommy Maddox was in the original XFL, where he came to the Steelers, had a good run. He's kind of a journeyman. He's not bad. I think too, like, the way that what I gather from all the tea leaves is that Bill Callahan's going to try to run the ball. He said that time and again. He wants to run the ball a lot. And it's actually going to ease the pressure on Case Keenum. He was throwing 40 times a game. You don't want Case Keenum throwing 40 times a game. You want him throwing 30 times a game off of play action, off of like a well-established run. So I think he's actually in a decent spot. And I think I actually like his tight end too, because it's 2,700, Jeremy Sprinkle.
Are you doing drugs?
Well, obviously, yes.
No, different drugs.
No, just the same old drugs. The same.
Yeah.
I'm high on life, Josh. I'm high on life with Case Keenum.
Yeah. Mark Smith beat me to it. Spags has been drinking this morning. It's certainly
Spags has not been drinking.
Though that you've been drinking?
Spags got woken up early by 2 vomiting dogs. Both my dogs threw up.
Yeah, they probably heard your fucking Case Keenum take.
Look, I think Case Keenum is a decent quarterback. He's been accurate on the year. He's had a good vibe with Terry McLaurin, and I think Miami's bad enough. And also, I just think if they do establish the run with Peterson, I think that's going to open things up a bit because Peterson, I have a lot of Peterson too. I'm very in on the Redskins, not as into Keenum though. Like I had a lot of Keenum a couple weeks ago when he got benched for Haskins. I'm not doing that at high volume.
Oh my god. Good luck, man.
Tommy Maddox reference.
Yeah, I got nothing. I do not advocate playing Case Keenum today, no matter what happens.
He was the thumbnail and on the contrary, and Alex chose him. So I feel double vindicated.
No. You're probably one of the vindicators. Are you a million ants?
He was getting it in with what's her face.
That's true. Titty. What were they calling each other at the end?
Snozzles, Titty something.
Snozzles and Titty something.
Rick and Morty
double cross Snozzles. And there's like 995 people in here right now not having a clue what we are talking about.
But the people who do the crossover between Rick and Morty and DFS fans, I'm sure is high enough where people probably are okay with that. But I don't know. Anyway, point being, I think Case Keenum is a play. And if Alex is Steve Buzzard's a football champion, a fantasy football champion from FanDuel last year. They both are okay with Case Keenum. I'll take the wisdom of the crowds who are also wiser than me, and I'll say Case Keenum is playable, but not like I'd prefer Matt Ryan. I'll go on that ledge.
No way. You'd prefer Matt Ryan.
Shocking. I know. Shocking. How about Lamar Jackson? He's also a guy, he's the last guy on DK, at least getting over 10% ownership expected for him, according to our ownership projections at Osmo.com, which again, go to Osmo.com/join and check them out. It's find all the packages. We actually have a cool little tool there. If you're trying to be like, a serious player or not so serious player, it'll tell you what the best option is. So go check that out at Osmo.com/join. But Lamar Jackson, high total game for him going against Cincinnati, who's really, really bad defensively, especially, but really bad on kind of the core parts of football, blocking, the things that you want to see out of your football team. Lamar, he's a guy who can run, he can throw. No Marquise Brown, which is going to hurt him a bit. But how are you feeling about Lamar Jackson?
Lamar Jackson is someone I don't have this week. Please calm down already, YouTube chat. It has nothing to. We don't need to get into this again. He's just not a guy that I have this week. Actually, let me double check that on Fantasy Draft because I really don't know that answer. I have 2 lineups with him on Fantasy Draft, so he's one of the 6 quarterbacks I have on Fantasy Draft. I don't have him on Yahoo.
Okay. Also, EMAC making a Szechuan sauce joke in the chat, so I didn't realize EMAC was going to be there, but I appreciate EMAC being on the Rick and Morty train.
Same. Wife doesn't know this yet. MeUndies released Rick and Morty underwear. Ordered those bad boys up, so they should be here in a couple of days. I'll make sure to show everybody on the stream, but that won't be on YouTube, Twitch, or Periscope. That will be on Omegle or Chat Roulette.
I'm sure there's nothing more of a natural aphrodisiac for a loving wife than to see her husband and with Rick's mouth on.
She doesn't like the show, so I've been looking into a divorce lawyer. I just need to find somebody that's going to give me half of everything.
That's nice. That's something to aspire to. I think men should be able to gold dig too.
I'll take alimony as a man. I have no shame. I ate 100 pizza bites on a live stream once while everybody else talked around me. I clearly have no shame whatsoever.
Everybody, the chat really bringing it today. Movie O2, when you say Lamar Jackson's throwing motion limits his potential air yards. I think it could be a concern. I do think so. I have some Lamar. I think he's an interesting stack. I think Snead's actually been a good yards after catch guy. Actually, one of the better expected yards after catch guys, or rather yards after catch above expectation. He's been running the ball well when he does get the ball. Just an increased opportunity there, I think, is going to open it up a little bit for him. Miles Boykin should see some more run too. I think vaguely intriguing, but it's hard to go to these guys at volume because, you could also just see Mark Ingram have 3 touchdowns, and maybe like Mark Andrews also has a decent day, and maybe Lamar runs one in. Like the concentration isn't there enough for, I think, what we consider to be stack potential, but I think he's worth some exposure. I think it's just hard to make a natural lineup with him. Though running it back with Boyd looks pretty nice.
That much I agree. Big fan of Boyd this week, but I think I have a ton of Boyd every week. So
yeah, Boyd's been really good. I mean, and Baltimore's defense really not good, surprisingly. Like I really thought they would be better with Earl Thomas in there. Maybe the loss of Mosley is really the contributing factor there, but they've been bad across the board. Could be a bounce back spot, but and I did pay for their defense because Cincinnati is so bad in a few spots, but it seems hard to imagine that Boyd doesn't get there.
I mean, he's going to get
All right,
volume, that's for sure.
that
Boyd is
that
like
much is
Matt
for sure.
Ryan.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he'll be there. He'll be in the mix. Andy Dalton will keep throwing regardless whether he gets sacked 100 times or not and turns it over 50 times. He's just terrible. I mean, the team's not helping him, but he's terrible.
I am getting a lot of Tyreek Hill on FanDuel right now.
Anybody else at QB you want to hit on? I mentioned I do have some Keenum. I do have some Josh Rosen. I think that's pretty much. I have a little bit of Baker Mayfield just because being back home after a really down spot, I think Seattle's a better matchup for him, and I think Odell's in a better spot outside. So I did get there a little bit, not a lot. People talking about Kyler Murray. I think it's harder to get to a full stack there with no Christian Kirk. So I don't have a ton of him. I have a little bit as well. Anybody else you're getting on any appreciable volume?
I have Dak on Yahoo. He's my fourth. They play the Jets. Do I need to go further than that? I mean, Zeke, Cooper, Gallup, Dak, whatever combos I can get of those guys, I'm super happy with it. And then bringing it back with Le'Veon Bell, obviously.
So speaking of Le'Veon Bell, let's talk about the rushers here. And our boy Rinpack has been doing a great job in the preseason streams with Fast City Fear. If you are a premium member, actually, wait, I got a question from Makad here that I missed in chat. Teddy Bridgewater with Jalen Ramsey out. I'm not a big Bridgewater fan, and I could see it because the Jacksonville defense is worse, but I just don't think he throws it deep enough for me and with enough volume to be a fan of him. But would you play Bridgewater at a depressed price against the Jacksonville team who can shoot out a little bit?
I'm not playing Bridgewater. I don't anticipate it, and Jalen Ramsey's status doesn't really change anything for me with regards to playing Teddy Bridgewater. If he shows up because Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas look fantastic, then that's it. But that's a byproduct of those two guys and not any sort of Teddy Bridgewater is just along for the ride.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think Bridgewater too, I don't know, he just doesn't pose a lot of upside. He doesn't run the ball. He's just mostly throwing dink and dunk type passes. He knows to feed Michael Thomas. That's certainly going to help. But Ted Ginn's been a non-factor. Jared Cook has had some okay games, but still mostly not. I think he's had one okay game, actually. Still mostly a non-factor. So it's hard to see the full stack getting there with Bridgewater. But if you want to do him as a pay down option, I don't know what you're pivoting off of, but I could see it, but it's not one that I got to or would get to.
Dude, all
right, so
Rinpack stupid amount of Tyreek Hill on FanDuel. It's so scary.
You know, it's better than us both being on the Andy Dalton train last week.
That's true. That one stung.
At least Tyreek Hill, if he gets 3 catches, he could have 3 catches, 120 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Andy Dalton can have that was so frustrating, man. There were 7 field goals kicked in that game. He was in the spot and he just couldn't do it. That was maddening.
To be fair, Tyreek Hill is 7,400 on FanDuel. That is $200 cheaper than Odell, $200 more expensive than Thielen if you need reference points.
All right, so let's talk running backs. Malcolm Brown, a guy who's going to be picking up a bunch of ownership this week. Todd Gurley out, a quad contusion, I believe is what they're calling it. You know, who knows with Todd Gurley that I was listening to Christopher Harris's podcast and he has his cousin on who's also kind of a humorous guy. And he was talking about how Todd Gurley's knee is like climate change, where part of it'll be cold, part of it'll be hot. It's always an issue that gets the results of that. And that's actually a pretty fair assessment of it. There's something wrong there. But Malcolm Brown, cheap and getting the run. He's one of my he was one of my fades of the week. On the contrary, I didn't play a ton of him. I just think it's a really tough spot against the Niners. I actually like the Niners defense quite a bit this week. For some stuff we could talk about with Jared Goff. Jared Goff, bad under pressure, bad when holding onto the ball over 2.5 seconds, and he's facing a coverage group who's deflecting 27% of passes, and it's just been really good covering everybody. So, the Rams total does seem to imply they're going to get there. I just have some questions. So I'm not on Malcolm Brown a ton. How are you feeling about him?
Depends on which site we're talking about. On Fantasydraft, I have half the field. On Yahoo, I have a bunch. He's the flat minimum $10 on Yahoo. I think it's a little bit of a different story there. I expect him to get enough volume at a flat minimum price on Yahoo that it really makes it work pretty easily. On Fantasydraft, 7,800, I have 14%. He's in, I don't know, 4 or 5 lineups. I think he works as a value play, but I don't need him in 30%.
Yeah, I think he's a fine value, and he could certainly be able to have the fall into 2 touchdowns kind of situation. But I just think it's a really good defense, and I think too, as a couple shows have mentioned, I think they're talking about on the deeper dive, you could see more Darrell Henderson out there. The pass game involvement hasn't been great for the running back so far. There's some concern there with just him not getting enough of a lion's share that you want to see for a guy. And if he's a value play, I'd rather go to Peterson at that price point. I'd probably rather go to Carlos Hyde at that price point, just because I think Peterson's going to have that workload. I don't see that game blowing out. And I think Carlos Hyde, if the Texans are smart, again, as the deeper dive guys mentioned, they're going to run that ball quite a bit with him. So I think there's pivots out there to Brown, and 20% seems like a lot of Malcolm Brown.
It seems like a lot of Malcolm Brown. I agree.
How about Bell and Fournette? Because these guys were also very chalky. I think you mentioned some Bell. Fournette seeing a ton of volume in a home game as well. And I think that spot could certainly be beneficial. I'm pretty much with the field. I think a little bit underneath on Bell, but with there on Fournette. I see the reason why they're there. The prices are low, especially on DraftKings. So I'm with these guys. I don't love the plays because I think it's a tough spot for Bell against the Cowboys. And Fournette, we've seen his downsides. How are you feeling about Bell and Fournette?
I've got 30% Bell on Yahoo. I am under the field on Fantasy Draft. I only have maybe like 3 or 4 Bell lineups. Fournette, on the other hand, over the field on both sites because it's Leonard Fournette, and I just have this dude nonstop every week.
Yeah, I think 25 looks plus touches per game. I mean, he's got a volume that you're not going to find outside of Le'Veon Bell or Christian McCaffrey in the league for the most part.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's tough to ignore Fournette. Yeah, I just think to me, I don't know that I see the gigantic ceilings for these guys, and I do think that maybe Peterson can get there. Peterson's one. Look, I know I'm going to be too heavy on the Redskins. I know, and I keep trying to avoid these crappy teams going against other crappy teams, but Peterson, I just find it hard to believe he doesn't get his 20 touches and has 70 yards and a score and maybe 2. I think that's just sort of what that game grades out to me.
I hope you're right, sort of, because he's not owned on Fantasy Draft, but I just assume he sucks because Adrian Peterson and he's on the Redskins.
He got the volume last year, and he did have he broke some big plays last year. I do think he had some gas left in the tank, and he seems rejuvenated by the idea of being fed the ball a lot. I heard some media little scrums with him where he's talking about I'm excited just to get the ball again. They want to establish the run. There's only one guy in that roster you could really do that with. Chris Thompson's not going to establish the run in the way that Bill Callahan wants in his 1980s football. So I think that's Peterson.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that I have way too much Peterson right now, and I should swap off of almost all of it now that I'm looking at it. But
I too have way too much, so I'm riding with it though.
This is a guy that has, hold on, 62, 90, 108 yards in 4 games. What do we need today? He's got to score twice, right?
Yeah, I think my game script for him would be 20 for 70, 2 catches, and then 2 touchdowns. I think is what I think. That's my aggressive kind of him having a day ceiling kind of day.
God, that's gonna be gross. God, that whole game is gross.
But the thing is, if that gets him to where I think Bell and Fournette would be, and if you're saving 2K and able to get to those guys, I think logically I probably should have more of a split of Brown, Peterson, and Hyde. But I'm heaviest on Peterson, and then probably second on Hyde, and then third Brown.
I barely have any Hyde.
That's a really good spot for Hyde. As long as the game doesn't completely blow out, and even then you could have Will Fuller kind of stepping out on the one again and giving Hyde those goal line looks. I find it hard to believe Hyde doesn't have a decent floor, if not the ceiling as well.
Yeah, he just scares me. I hate him. Just as an individual player, I just hate him.
As a human being.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's a real Jekyll and Hyde, that guy.
Don't be proud of yourself.
Thanks, guys.
Don't be proud of yourself.
No, he's getting 15 attempts a game and going against the Chiefs team who's given up 5.3 yards per rush and also very poorly graded run defense according to PFF. One of the worst ones in the league. He's not Marlon Mack. We saw what Marlon Mack did previously versus the Chiefs where he can really kind of squeeze the air out of the ball. But Hyde is a guy who can get little chunks of yards. He's actually been a little explosive this year, right where you'd want to be in terms of yards after contact, getting 2 red zone rushes per game. Duke Johnson not likely to take much of the role, at least he hasn't thus far. So I think Hyde's a decent play, but I'd prefer Peterson just because I think the workload will be there for him.
Oh, Adrian Peterson.
All right, we are at the halfway point of the show. And I think that means it's time for our 100-yard and a TD picks. And there's some good news and some bad news. The good news is that you are still winless on the year. 5 weeks, all of these high illustrious names have let you down in hilarious fashion every week. And now the bad news, EMAC got it with my guy, Christian McCaffrey. So I'm going to say for 1 week, here's what we should do. Under 8K guy on DraftKings should be the pick because that seems to be a threshold for these guys.
Means I need to figure out the DraftKings prices.
I mean, it basically rules out Dalvin Cook, it rules out Zeke, it rules out Kamara, it rules out Julio Jones.
I mean, I understand what we're doing. I just
giving you
just
as
don't look at
objective.
draft. Like, I don't know any DraftKings salaries at all for any single player on the entire slate. So let me figure this out.
Hey, don't worry, I know them like the back of my hand, as I just proved.
You gonna go with Adrian Peterson?
You know, honestly, I don't think he gets to 100 yards. That's really the issue. But
No shit.
You know, I'll go Mark Ingram. I'll go Mark Ingram for mine.
Ooh, okay. Under 8K, you said?
Yep.
Under 8K on DraftKings. I see points. Position. Running back. Wide receiver. No, I'm not taking Fournette. I want to die. I'll take DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay. Solid pick. Curious to see who EMAC goes with, because I think ruling out that high price tier is going to make him go with somebody weird.
I mean, I'm sure he's just going to go with whoever gets the 100 yards and a touchdown.
Hey, he is not the leader in the clubhouse. I am still the leader in the clubhouse.
Oh,
3-2. 3-2-0.
I'll keep that 0. I like bagels.
Also, Ezekiel Elliott last week should have gotten there. He only had 12 rushes, which was a real kick in the nards of that game that completely got away. He ended up with, I think, he had 92 yards and a touchdown, I think, if I'm recalling correctly. So that was about as close as you can get with still being disappointed.
Okay, I am going to go with these exposures on FanDuel.
All right. We'll see what EMAC has coming. Is Hollywood Brown playing David Mansour? No, he is not. He's been ruled out. Let's see. EMAC tagging us. Oh, Chris Carson on the road is EMAC's pick.
There we go.
Speaking of, somebody did ask about, I think McCod asked about Chris Carson in the chat. Is he somebody you have this week? I didn't land on him. I could see it. Rashad Penny is going to be out. And Cleveland's run defense is bad, but I just didn't feel the need to get to him. But I guess he is a logical price point pivot to guys like Fournette and Bell and even Mark Ingram. How are you feeling about Carson?
I'm right around the field on Fantasy Draft. I'm quite a bit over the field on FanDuel, and on Yahoo, I only have one share. So okay. I don't know. Depends on the slate, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, the volume's been there for him. The pass catching involvement has kind of fallen off a bit from the beginning of the year, where it looked like he was going to be getting a little more of those dink and dunk kind of touches. But 5.2 yards per rush allowed by Cleveland. Also 159 yards per game allowed, which is a lot on the ground. So a spot where Chris Carson can certainly get there. I just didn't personally get there, but for a tournament, I think if you are trying to pivot off of Bell and Fournette, he'd be one of the guys who jumps out. I just prefer Ingram. I like Ingram quite a bit.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, like, he's just like going against Cincinnati. Anybody against Cincinnati, if you're going to get volume, they are so bad defensively. Anybody else at running back need to hit on? Are you getting any Nick Chubb? Any guys who like maybe are a little underappreciated who could also have that upside? Alvin Kamara is a guy who I find interesting going against the Jags, but he's not that owned. 10% projected ownership on DK.
I don't know what's going on with that dude. I've got quite a bit on FanDuel. Don't have nearly as much on Fantasy Draft, but on FanDuel, Kamar 7,900. I have twice the field as of right now. Biggest fade on FanDuel for me, combo of either Malcolm Brown or some garbage running back named Mark Ingram.
He's a truly elite running back. If only he had elite rushing yards and elite passing targets, I think then he'd be good to go.
He had a good quarterback.
Well, it does limit his air yards. Lamar Jackson's throwing motion is so conflicted. I also like the expensive tier. Like, I like Dalvin Cook. I'm not terribly afraid of the matchup versus Philly. I know they're a very good run defense, but they're going to want to run the ball. I don't think they're going to air it out all of a sudden, and they're going to try to do that. I think the defense can also oppress Philly enough where Dalvin Cook's not going to get game flowed out. So I still like Dalvin. I still like Zeke. I still like Kamara, but especially this week too, with the mid-price tier kind of being so highly owned, I do think it's a week where if you try to get to Cook, Zeke, and maybe some mix of him and Kamara, I think those three, having them in your flex as well, I think that's going to differentiate a bit because a lot of people are going to have either Bell or Fournette or Malcolm Brown.
I agree. I don't have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I know. I did a great job. I think we can all agree there. All right, let's talk about the anybody else running back relevant? Anybody like cheap you're getting at running back who we should bring to the people? Matt Breida interests me a bit, but I didn't get much.
I got a lot of Devonta Freeman.
I like that play. I think that's a good pivot to the chalky passing attack.
Yeah, I got a lot of Freeman. He's one of my most exposed running backs on Fantasy Draft, actually.
That checks out. He's getting over 5 targets a game. Touches have been on the way up. Still not a 20 touch per game guy anymore, but he's right there and going against an Arizona team who has given up a good amount of rushing score, actually a good amount of rushing production, not a good amount of rushing scores, only a 1.4% rushing TD rate for them, but still giving up almost 5 yards per rush. And there's no reason to think that Devonta Freeman can't get there. And also, you are getting leverage on the people who are going to be going to the passing game, and I think that's got value as well.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of Freeman in mind. I have 1 or 2 spots with Ryan plus Freeman plus somebody, but I've got a lot of Freeman in spots where I don't have Matt Ryan. So on the off chance that Matt Ryan doesn't go well, at least I have Freeman as a safety blanket.
Yeah, I agree. I think Alex is a little down on the idea of pairing Freeman with Ryan, but I do think that I get they kind of inherently take a little bit away from each other, but I think Freeman's involved enough. He's had more receiving touchdowns, he's had rushing touchdowns this year. So I think it's not a bad correlation play. I'd probably prefer to go to to any of the guys, Julio, Ridley, or Sanu, or Hooper. But
I want one of those guys with every Freeman Matt Ryan lineup. I don't want it just those two. So if it's Ryan Freeman plus X, whoever that X is fine by me.
Yeah. Ryan Freeman plus Julio, Ryan Freeman plus Hooper. I think that seems like the way that would shake out.
Right. If there's that way. 4 touchdowns and Julio has 2 of them, and Freeman has 1 and a couple touchdowns. I see how it gets there.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree. We're in a little more agreement this week, besides the Case Keenum take.
Yeah. Well, I can't agree with a terrible take like that.
You will rue the day. You'll rue the day that you question XFL MVP Case Keenum.
What's more likely, that Case Keenum is a necessity today, or that Case Keenum makes it to the end of the season as a Redskins starting quarterback?
Ooh. I think the necessity one, would be closer.
Oh, God. I don't think that either one of those things are particularly likely.
I think it's 5% for that, right? Well, maybe 10% for 7.5% for that. And I think 3% that he's a starting QB by the end of the year.
He might be in the XFL by the end of this year.
Have you seen the promo videos for the XFL, by the way?
Nope.
So they've been doing a good. They have a bunch of college guys. I think they got Ryan Broyle at wide receiver from Bama. They got is he from Bama or Oklahoma? I forget. Whatever. He's one of those guys who's a big college name.
I'll be honest. My first thought was Oklahoma, but I don't follow college football or the XFL. I think so.
Yeah, I always mix them up because the jerseys look similar, and I'm only a USC fan at this point for college football. Which has been a nightmare. But yeah, I think the XFL is grading out well for me in terms of the presentation, and they just seem more buttoned up with Oliver Luck running things. Where I've got some faith in them that this will be a good run. I'm fully prepared to throw myself in for XFL content. By the way, if they're doing big DFS contests, I will be your XFL source for next XFL season.
I will never watch a snap of the XFL.
Really? Not you like wrestling. I feel like you wouldn't give it a shot.
No, I won't.
All right. I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
I gave the AAF a shot. I'll certainly give the XFL a shot.
Yep. I never saw a single snap of that either.
It felt more like the Any Given Sunday game than the XFL did, where just in the terms of the bootleggedness. And
I don't want to watch the NFL. Why would I watch the JUCO version of the NFL?
Tough but fair. I like football enough where for me, when it's baseball season, I'm just football, please give me some pivot to football.
Basketball, please.
All right, let's talk about the wide receivers here, because it looks like the chalk play. Well, so I'm getting tight ends here. Let's talk about them both, because it looks like the overall, in terms of receivers and tight ends, the chalk play of the week. What a growth for Austin Hooper, a man who had his doubters last offseason and now is the chalk play for 2 straight weeks. Going against Arizona, which has been a funnel defense. We've talked about Hooper a little bit, but are you feeling comfortable with the 25% Austin Hooper that are going to be out there?
I have 25% Austin Hooper on Fantasy Draft, if that helps.
I like it. I think that's the right amount of Hooper. I probably a little bit above that, but look, we saw the infamous Will Dissly spot versus Arizona. That was a good one. Tyler Eifert didn't get there. He also ran 13 routes, so it's going to be hard to get there if you ran 13 routes against Arizona. But Hooper's involved. He's getting as many targets per game as Julio Jones. Yeah. I think he is a good chalk play, and I think he's actually right now a better chalk play than George Kittle with his injury concerns.
Yeah, like I like both guys honestly. Kittle makes me nervous. Obviously, he may be hurt, is hurt. Who knows? Um, Hooper's volume is just too much. He's Hooper's like the tight end version of Leonard Fournette.
He's yeah. I mean, actually, that does check out. He's also pretty good after the catch, like similar to Fournette, who can break some big runs and like 8.4 targets a game, but 81% target share for him. He's also getting targeted on a good amount of routes, but not an unsustainable amount. 24% of his routes, which is like kind of where you expect a tight end to be.
Like I don't think
Cooper's,
he is as good as his targets, but I care less about talent and more about targets.
yeah, the volume is there. I think he's talented. I don't think he's like young Gronk, but I think he's in a world of Zach Ertz's and all that. I think he's not far behind those guys. He's probably a tier behind, but not like far behind.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a reason that Austin Hooper is still like a couple $1,000s behind those guys, at least on fantasy draft. He's the next tier down, but the volume is there. You don't feel comfortable not having him, that's for sure. He's a tight end that could break the slate. There aren't that many of them.
Our boy Vot saying you guys both need some NHL in your lives. I would say I don't, but I support the content we do here. I miss Jake Hari. I don't get to see Jake for anything until baseball season starts back up. But Vots and Jake doing a great job. They also have some new additions over there for their hockey shows. Nolan as well, doing a great job with their content. So check out the hockey content on the channel because those guys, I mean, probably one of our more profitable, I would say, niche sports or like, whatever,
Yeah.
not out of the non-big three.
Yeah. I don't need any hockey in my life.
I had preseason NBA in my life this week, and that was enough. This is a tough preseason. Like last year, I made money with very little effort. This year, I was like break even, and it took hours of prep. I also was writing content and doing it, but it wasn't my favorite preseason for this past week.
0 NBA preseason for me. I'll see you guys next Tuesday.
It was a tough preseason. I had one or two good nights, and then a couple where I just like got murdered. There was one night where like Ayton and Towns both played terribly, and I was like, well, I guess that's just it. I don't know why they played terribly and why they didn't play more minutes, but that's preseason for you.
No, thank you.
All right, let's see receivers. So DeAndre Hopkins, it looks like still going to be the top owned receiver overall. We talked about him a little bit, but where are you relative to the field, given that he's going to be almost 25% owned?
He is 31% owned on fantasy draft, and I have more than that.
Ooh. Okay. So you're comfortable with him. And I mean, it does seem like a spot to go back to him with Fuller, especially with no Kenny Stills again. I think that's going to make people go back to Fuller. I know I made sure to get more Fuller in because of no Stills, but there is a bit of leverage by going to Hopkins, even though the ownership is still really high for him.
Yeah, I'm team Hopkins in this spot. He's the best wide receiver on the team. The game is fantastic from a DFS perspective. What's not to like?
I agree. Let's see. Tight end. Oh, so Travis Kelce now getting some ownership, or his ownership on the upswing. I think with the George Kittle injury concerns, his ownership has taken a bit of a downswing. How are you feeling about paying up for Kelce today, given that he's a high price tight end? The results haven't fully been there, but one would think, even though Tyreek Hill is going to take some off the table, he's such an explosive threat downfield that should open some more for Kelce in the middle of the field. So how are you feeling about him? I hope that's how you're feeling about Kelce.
Oh, no, I have a ton of him. 40% on fantasy draft, 30-something% on FanDuel. I probably 60% on 48% on Yahoo. Just have a ton. It's Travis Kelce, and I have a ton of Pat Mahomes. Like sometimes it's just that simple. I play the tight ends that are like wide receivers, so I have a ton of Kelce, a ton of Ertz, Hooper, and George Kittle.
No Mark Andrews?
I have, I don't know, one share of Mark Andrews somewhere, maybe one or two on FanDuel. Not a lot.
I'm still a Mark Andrews believer. I know the last few weeks have been a bit quiet, but still getting almost 8 targets a game. No Hollywood Brown out there. Theoretically should open up. Actually, could open up some more deep targets for Mark Andrews. He's been getting. Is this right? No, he's getting 1 deep target per game. He's had 2 per game in a couple games, but I think the injuries have kind of slowed him down a little bit. But without Brown out there, Andrews could be used to spread the field a bit more and to get downfield. So I think he's interesting.
Doesn't Hollywood Brown being out make it worse for everybody? I don't get the sense that Lamar Jackson having wide receivers that are worse makes him better at throwing the ball.
Yeah, I think it does make it worse in terms of spacing, but Andrews, I think, can still create enough separation where I'm not too worried about it. I mean, like, he's not an elite separation tight end in terms of, actually, is he? Hold on, let me look at the stats.
No idea.
He's No, he's actually getting 3.1 yards of separation on his targets. So like he's getting some decent room for himself. I think he's just the guy who's going to see more volume. Like I think it's hard to trust Snead or Boykin out there, but I think Andrews is still like their connection's been there enough where I don't think they're going to double team him. I think that'd be weird.
Snead's the
It's
guy I would
Cincinnati
like to
too.
take a risk on.
Okay.
Well,
It's Cincinnati. Like
I'm probably not saying that correctly. Snead is the guy I am taking a risk on. That is not the guy that I like to take a risk on.
Yes, that's fair. Snead is expensive on a couple of sites too. I think on Fantasy Draft he's expensive on DK. I know
He is. Where is he? 9,800 on Fantasy Draft. I have one share there. I've got him more on Yahoo, I believe.
I think that was what Alex was saying, is that he was like dirt cheap on I think FanDuel and Yahoo, but he's expensive on Fantasy Draft and DK.
Yeah, he's $13 on Yahoo, so it's gonna take a lot for him to like truly murder you.
Yeah, that makes sense. How about Julio? Julio's ownership going to be less than Hopkins. He's a little bit more expensive, but we've talked about the spot. And Julio coming off of 2 really down games. There's some volume concerns. It's the ball's being spread around quite a bit, but Julio's certainly capable of those, slate breaking spots. Where are you with the field on him?
Probably under, but I do like make sure that I have him. There's just so many options that it's hard to get like a ton of him. So I've just got a lot of combinations of the Falcons and nobody in any sort of very specific, like large amount. Hooper is the guy that I have the most of, but that's more of a position thing than anything else.
Yep. I think that's fair. I think you have to have some Julio, like we mentioned. You just have to have a mix. If you are playing Matt Ryan, you have to have some Julio in there, some Julio and Hooper, and then various constructions therein. So yeah. Let's see who else. Larry Fitz, a natural kind of guy to run it back with. He's probably the only guy you really want to run it back with. I guess David Johnson as well, but in terms of wide receivers, is he somebody you're landing on?
Unfortunately. I've got a lot on Fantasy Draft coming back. It's the nature of the beast. If Matt Ryan's my most expensive quarterback, I'm going to naturally have a lot more David Johnson / Larry Fitzgerald.
I didn't get as much David Johnson as I probably should have. I think the injury concerns there kind of spooked me a bit, but I think, again, I kind of betrayed my own thing I talked about earlier where he's questionable tag. He's still playing. I think he still should be fine. And he could be running more routes out of the slot as well. So, David Johnson, probably a guy you should have some of if you are playing as Atlanta stacks.
Yeah, absolutely. Worth the risk, I think.
We talked about Tyreek Hill enough. Amari Cooper also going to have some ownership on him. And you mentioned that you have some Dak. Is Cooper the guy you're going to with your Dak?
He's my number one exposed wide receiver on Fantasy Draft.
Oh, wow. Okay. Anything jumping out in particular? Just price?
He's just playing the Jets.
He is playing the Jets.
Yeah. He's my number one wideout today. So last time I had that thought, he went for 2 TDs. So hope that happens again.
He and Gallup both have been, really going crazy this year. Cooper averaging 102.4 yards per game, Gallup averaging 113, which you'd expect that to come down a little bit, even though Gallup is a leading air yards receiver. So that is that is one sustainable thing for him. But
that's how I figured out how to get Gallup. I looked at that.
He's been really good. I think Gallup actually might be. He's still only his second year, but I think he might long term be a better receiver than Cooper. But they're a pretty good 1-2 punch.
Do I have him? I don't have Michael Gallup. He is expensive on Fantasy Draft.
He is. He's priced. He's priced like his 2019 results, which have been like amazing. He's been really good, even with the injury time kind of knocking down the sample size a bit.
I think that I forced him in a little bit more. I've got one of my 5 Dak lineups on Yahoo has Gallup, so that's about as good as I can do considering I have a lot more Cooper, and we haven't even mentioned the fact that Zeke is the third option here.
Yeah. Zeke, I have a good amount of. I have more of him than Cooper and then of Gallup, but Zeke just seems like he's due for something to be better than what he's had so far. In that game last week, the Packers just blew the doors off, so Zeke was pretty much rendered useless right away. People in the chat, somebody in the chat asking Dede or Chark. Dede Westbrook, of course, kind of, I would say a trendy play in terms of the content that I've seen out there this week. Running out of the slot theoretically has a better matchup than Chark. We should be seeing at least some Marshawn Lattimore, if not a lot of Marshawn Lattimore, perhaps a shadow for him. Are you getting any Westbrook or Chark?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
0.
My friend's group text right now talking about Jameis Winston at length and how terrible he looks, which makes me
he's
happy.
starting for the old wife today in season long. I'm sure she's ready to freak out.
Jameis in London seems like a tough spot. I don't know why. I just like I feel like him being in London, he would just be like, I'm confused by being out in London. We're driving on the other side of the road.
Yeah. Do they have a lot of crab legs there?
Probably not. Probably only fish and chips for old Jameis. He probably got him rattled.
He's got a bunch of cod fillets that are breaded stuck in his pocket. Well, maybe the ball's slipping out of his hand from cod grease.
Cod grease is a funny phrase. I like cod grease. Anybody else you're getting of? Michael Thomas perhaps chasing that big game. We talked a little bit about Tyler Boyd. I have some of these guys. Well, less Thomas this week because his price is up. Like last week, he was just way too cheap. This week, he's kind of priced where he should be. But I have some. I have some Sanu. I have like a good mix. I have some McLaurin as well, and the Miami receivers. I like Preston Williams and Devontae Parker. They are both parts of my illustrious Josh Rosen stacks. But who else are you getting at receiver that's worth bringing to the people?
My 5 most exposed wide receivers on Fantasy Draft: Cooper, Hopkins, Fitzgerald, Tyler Boyd, and Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
After that, it's all like just scatters of Lockett, Kupp, Woods, Julio, Ridley, Michael. Just the good players.
Right. The Terry McLaurins.
I don't have Terry McLaurin.
The Jeremy Sprinkles.
He is not in my player pool.
I think he should be. So, all right. So here's the case for Jeremy Sprinkle real fast. So Jordan Reed out for the year now with his various concussion issues. It's actually kind of sad because I always like Jordan Reed. But Jeremy Sprinkle, also know Vernon Davis, I think he's also out for concussion, if I'm remembering correctly. A lot of concussions going on in the Redskins locker room, including their former coach, who's just seemed to be coaching through a bunch of concussions. But a 27.3% target share when Jeremy Sprinkle's been running routes. So I think that does interest me a bit because I don't see Trey Quinn getting a ton of volume. I know Paul Richardson had the one game. I don't see him getting a ton of volume. But I do think he'll be opened up a bit by the play action that I talked about earlier with Peterson. So I think Sprinkle's an interesting play. 2,600 on DK. Not a lot of him, but I'm at like 5%. And the field's at 1.7. It looks like.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the Dolphins selling out on Adrian Peterson in the backfield, so I think they'll be okay in play action. I mean, honestly, anything could happen in that game. Both teams are dreadful.
They are. And that's the thing too, is like, I don't want to load up on the passing attacks, but I do think the run game and like a little bit of passing attack can be the approach that works there. Like, I don't think Josh Rosen's going to throw 4 touchdowns today, but if he opens up some stuff and he works and Preston Williams and Parker have a day, like, I don't know. I think there's going to be some opportunity there. It's just going to probably not be the opportunity that we're hoping for or the one that we expect.
Please hire a football DFS expert. Josh ain't it. Sorry. I do one of our like 25 NFL shows in a week.
I think you do a fine job, Josh.
The final one that no one else will do. Trust me, I tried to not do this.
That is true. I had no choice in the matter, but I enjoy talking about the stuff early in the morning too.
It's an easy show to do. I like playing, but I'm not trying to give analysis.
Mike Campbell, Spags, you playing any Trey Quinn in your stacks of Redskins? I have one Trey Quinn lineup across, I think 100 I did today. So not a lot. He's a very short target, both literally and in terms of his breadth of targets. So I'd be more inclined to go to McLaurin. And again, Sprinkle, I think, is going to be more of a play that can break one. I'm intrigued by that. Oh, there we go. People defending you. Morgan Painting. Good guys. Guys, hit that like button too. Show that PJ what's up by giving our boy Josh a little love. My buddy Josh. I won't sit here for the slander of the Chubster.
I'm cool with it.
I know you are. I would just mute him. I'd be like, fuck you, man. but it's not about me, so it's fine.
That's one too many. See, now I don't care if you ever come back.
What a jerk.
Sorry, is this free show not good enough for you, old PJ? Our apologies. My bad.
Yeah, I think that's. I'm trying to look at receivers, see if there's anybody else that I have that I feel like is worth bringing to the people. I think Sprinkle's about the deepest cut that I have this week that I think is worth a little bit of exposure. Again, do not go crazy on Jeremy Sprinkle and then say, I told you to do that, because I'm not advocating for that, but what a great name too. Play players with great names.
Yeah, I'm going to pass on Sprinkle. I'm going to pass on literally every piece of the Redskins.
Did you actually cut your Peterson exposure?
No, I didn't. Josh always acting like a smug D-bag. Acting? Who's acting?
PJ could have a Coke and a smile. Oh, guys. All right. Defenses. Yeah, I know you're really agnostic with it, but I think the people may be helped out by what you just landed on with your projections and what you're running. Who do you get defense the most of?
The Jaguars?
Did you get Jets at all?
Yes.
I don't like that. I played some, but like they were coming up a lot in crunches, and I get their 1,500 on DK. So
yeah, I mean, I would have
logical.
if I were playing on DraftKings, I would have a ton.
Really? God, that's so such
Why?
a bad spot though.
There's no such thing as a good spot in defense. They scored 20 points like 3 weeks ago in a terrible spot. It's just
true.
You're trying to bet on a touchdown, which is essentially random. So I'll bet on that with the least amount or with the least expensive defense that I can find.
Okay. I think that's fair. I probably could have played a little bit more, but I just know they're going to give up like 28 points to the Cowboys, at least 21. And I feel like it's hard for me to imagine the Cowboys screwing up like that, but Dak does have some bonehead errors and it's a road game.
Fumble, scoop, and score. I mean, it doesn't even have to be like through talent.
Yeah. They got there with the Patriots. I mean,
that's what I mean. Like it's at 1,500. It just is like you just want to be there. I mean, now if they're 1,500 and their ownership is 28% or something, then I'm good. Where are they in ownership?
I don't even have defense ownership up. Let's see. While I pull this up. Oh, they are. Oh boy, we have them at very highly owned.
Yeah. So like then in a GPP, I'm comfortable fading. But in cash, they're the cash defense for sure, I would imagine.
So it's weird. I usually don't look at defense ownership too much because I generally find it to be flat unless there's like a defense I really like the Patriots a couple weeks ago or a couple times this year. I've really liked them and taken advantage of when they were low owned. But this week on DK, the ownership is real crazy. Jets going to be the highest owned. Redskins number 2. Vikings number 3. Like I don't agree. I mean, the Redskins one I could see, but a premium price for the Redskins, given that they showed nothing. Like I don't know about that.
I mean, they play the Dolphins. That game could be 40-0 either way.
Third lowest owned defense is, by the way, I'll say this now. We got 3 minutes left to lock. My my preferred defense of the week is the most contrarian one. It's going to either blow up. It's probably going to blow up my face, to be honest, based on the implied total. Niners defense for me is my top defense of the week by a lot.
I do not have a single share.
I think they are a fantastic defense. I think they have been really good. The Rams are the Rams. The Rams are at home. But Goff is terrible under pressure. I mentioned this earlier. He has like a 63.8 QB rating when he's under pressure. He has like a 68 QB rating when he holds the ball for 2.5 seconds or more. I think the Niners are going to cover really well. I think there's some risk there, but also no Gurley, I think, is going to shorten the field a bit and be able to kind of make them able to load up a bit more. So I think this is a game where the Niners are going to come into the Rams and just really, I think they're going to take it to them today. So if I'm wrong, whatever. Don't play a bunch of them, but I'm playing a bunch of them.
I got 1% in 276 FanDuel lineups.
Yeah, I get it. It's
not it's defense. It's not like I was plotting this one out.
No, this is just one to me. I noticed it in the numbers, and I was like, okay, this is like to me is the worst possible scenario for Goff, where he's going to have to hold onto the ball because everybody's going to be covered tight. They're deflecting a ton of passes as well. Like 27% of passes is really high, and granted, they do kind of kill the clock, so it's not a huge like overall sample, but still, it's I think it's a good spot for them, and I think they can come in and make. I think it's a statement game for the Niners. That's what I believe.
What statement are they looking to make?
We're a good football team.
Oh, okay.
Is that the statement every football team's always trying to make? Like we're good at football.
I think that's a pretty common statement.
But I think they make that statement today with many exclamation points and perhaps like a tilde before the exclamation points. So,
1 minute from lock. Good luck to everyone except for PJ Clemens.
PJ Clemens. I feel like PJ's been around for a while. So like I always find it odd when people are like mean after being in the chat like quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
Well, either way, guys, hit that like button before you go. We are about to lock right now because we do appreciate that support a ton. And, it's still Sunday morning here. We're spending time with you guys. So even if you have some concerns with either of us, just show a little love because it's a positive energy thing. It's good juju creates good juju, not Juju Smith-Schuster. But also thank you to FantasyDraft.com, of course, the official home of rake-free daily fantasy. And even though the Hooters main event is now closed, you should be playing it every week because they've had overlay. They've also if you're not paying rake, we talked about it earlier, saving a ton of money by not paying rake. So go to FantasyDraft.com right now and use that promo code AWESEMO, AWESEMO, for your free 7-day trial. And of course, Osmo.com/join if you want to get yourself some Osmo Plus packages as low as $3.95 a week on there. That is less than a combo meal. Let's go check it out at Osmo.com/join. If you want to get a month-long package, use that promo code Live Before Lock for 50% off of your first month. All right, Josh, any parting words for the folks before we call it quits?
Best of luck to me on this lovely NFL Sunday for Week 6. Go Matt Ryan. Go Amari Cooper. Go DeAndre Hopkins. Go Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, go all the people that Josh played, and go Mark Ingram, and go whoever you're playing. I'm in a good headspace now that the show's done. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button before you go, and we'll see you again soon. Good luck, guys.